Hi, I'm Rachel.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Meg.
Welcome to the Strange and Beautiful Book Club. With a special guest. Hi, Meg.
Hi. You let me out of the closet for this episode. Yay!
Actually, you're technically in. I put you in the closet for the episode.
You put me in the worst
Get in the
closet.
pod lab. I don't wanna. For those who should be aware but aren't, Meg is the A Strange and Beautiful Network host on Gare Can Get It. And she has
I'm a
guest
host.
starred.
You're a host too.
I know, but
We're both equally liable for
shoot, I was trying to push liability off on you.
Yeah, my lawyer senses were tingling.
You've also been a special guest star on Come In 81 Kilo and now on Strange and Beautiful Book Club. And we will be talking about Willy's Wonderland. And I brought you on, Meg, because we have talked about puppets so much on Gare Can Get It. It just really felt like the right moment to have you on a movie
It's
episode.
like an expert witness.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you just hated me. I thought you were like, you need to be punished.
So, Meg, how did you feel about Willy's Wonderland?
So look, I don't hate Nicolas Cage, and I thought his character was actually interesting. Like it could have been. I was almost going to say compelling, and then I was like, it wasn't actually compelling. It could have been compelling. I liked that he was purposefully mute. It seemed like the entire time, like defiantly, grumpily, meanly mute the entire time. I thought his OCD thing with drinking, I don't know, grape pop. I thought that was sort of
Punch.
a choice.
What was it? It was like punch pop.
No, yeah, it was punch pop.
And it was like a punch
a
to
fistful of caffeine in your
to the kisser.
Yes,
like
to the kisser.
Yeah. Well, the first 6 times he was drinking it, I was certain it was alcohol, and then when you finally see the label and it's like, nope, it's just sugar. I was like, what? But it was like,
well, you should relate strongly to someone who compulsively consumes energy drinks.
Look, I'm trying to get the monkey off my back. Okay, I'm trying to go clean. It felt like the nugget of an interesting idea, wrapped up in sort of a cynical cash grab around the time that Five Nights at Freddy's became a really big video game with the teens and tweens. And then they were like, well, how do we make this into a movie that's not Five Nights at Freddy's, but is Five Nights at Freddy's adjacent and is a quick and easy thing to do? And they were like, well, why don't we just take a bunch of garbage horror movie tropes and then we throw this interesting Nick Cage nugget in the middle and hope that this I don't know, this potato nugget flavors the shit stew enough that it's okay. That's kind of how it felt to me. I wasn't grossed out by it. I wasn't actively mad at it the way I was with American Psycho 2: All American Girl, which is how I will refer to it. I need to give it the whole title every time. But I was just I don't I don't know. I didn't dislike it enough to be mad at it. And that's maybe worse. That's maybe worse than if it's terrible.
You just felt indifferent about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after Rachel and I talked about it, it was more along the lines of, there are few perfect films in the world.
Shut up. Really? Really? That's where you landed on this?
We really liked Willy's Wonderland. You know what I didn't like was the plucky teens.
Yeah, the plucky teens.
They really brought the mood down.
Trashed the rating.
Yeah.
Well, it felt like a different movie. Like I said, it felt like two separate movies. Like a paint by numbers, kids go fight an evil, kids go into an abandoned building, kids split up and have sex and then die. It felt like that could have been any movie. And then they're separately, there's this actually sort of interesting Nick Cage mute maniac. What's going on with this? But I felt okay, I know this is my complaint every movie we see. I felt like it didn't make a lot of sense to me in a way that was like interesting. Like they're like, okay, like there's robots and they're possessed by the ghosts of dead bad people, and I'm like, okay, like I'm with you. I've seen that enough. Weirdly, like that's becoming a trope. Freakily, sure,
It's so
fine. Like I'm
derivative.
with you. Yeah, like I don't know. I think I've spent too much time on the youth internet. Like I've seen too much stuff about FNAF. So like now every time there's a robot, like my robot sends like dings. But I'm like, okay, fine. Like I'm here with you. But then when we've got the sheriff's deputy or the little lady sheriff, like sacrificing people, drifters to the robot and be like, we look for people that can disappear. And I'm like, do you? Because you just put up spikes on this one road. Like, is this a road that only drifters use? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like already, like your plan is not great, but like fine. And then she's like, no one can beat the terrible robots and we don't want to piss them off. And then, but I'm like, Nick Cage is like ripping their heads off while drinking pop. Like it is not any kind of a struggle for him. And nothing has been shown to me to make me think that he's like a superhuman monster other than that he's like hopped up on caffeine. So when it's so easy for him to kill all the other robots, the fact that she's still like, no, I don't want to piss off Willy. I'm going to like keep chaining you up and you have to be chained up here as a sacrifice for Willy. I'm like, why? Give him 5 more minutes and he'll give you another garbage bag with a robot and he'll clean the floor afterwards. Like,
well, I
what do
think
you...
I think the trick they're pulling here is we don't know his backstory.
That's true, but the way that he fights them...
soldier?
Well, that's why I think I liked it, because my immediate headcanon was this was the sequel to Mandy.
Okay.
And that
and
this was Red from Mandy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was also a problem I had with Mandy. So like I watched Mandy. So okay, so I had read the Wikipedia entry for Mandy like previously. It did not prepare me is the thing, because in Wikipedia it just says like Mandy dies and Red is mad. Like that's all you get from Wikipedia. And I'm like, that's fair, sort of. I didn't realize that there were going to be demon bikers.
Yeah.
I guess, like, I don't know. And so and that made me mad too, because I was like, this would have been actually a compelling story if you were like, no, they were just like Charles Manson-esque cult guys in the woods and they saw a lady and they wanted to kill her, and then Red is the boyfriend or husband or whatever and he's mad and he goes for vengeance. Like that's a compelling story on its own. Like that's fine. And then when they add in like, P.S. also Hellraiser is here. I was like, the fuck? What? And then the Red's friend in the trailer in the woods who gives him the weapons is like, you're probably not going to come back alive. These guys are like they're like rabid animals. They're super vicious. And I was like, okay, like you're preparing me. You're like giving me, it's the same thing with the robots. You're like giving me this level of difficulty for the task. And then for him, it's, have you seen that guy on YouTube? I can't remember his name now. Like he's like he like recaps movies and he said like when he's going through them, he will present a difficult task and then some other guy is like, oh, is that going to be hard for them to do? And he's always like, no, it's super easy, barely an inconvenience. Do you know that guy?
No.
No, okay, I will send you his. He's I know he's I think it's Ryan George. He's based in Montreal, so like obviously I have to watch his videos. But it's I don't know. So I was watching it and I was like, that's all I could hear in my head was super easy, barely an inconvenience, because he's presented with demons and hopped up cult members, and then in this movie he's presented with robots who should not be able to feel pain, and he just like punches them in the dicks and they fall down. And I'm like, you like, if you give me anything to show how overpowered he was, then his like super easy takedown of these things would make sense. But instead he just sort of seems like he's like lightly tapping them and they're like, whoa, and they all fall down. And so like it's visually...
Well, he does break the handcuffs. Like he just snaps at the handcuffs after they cuff him.
Wait, in which movie?
In Willy's Wonderland.
In Willy's, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's handcuffed and he's just fighting the lady siren with his like kicking her. And then Willy shows up and he just breaks his handcuffs.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So he is overpowered.
I guess he is extra strong in that moment. But like that's so late in the movie. Did it make sense to you guys why when the plucky teen girl was like, hey, Willy is just standing there in his frozen state, let's beat the shit out of him, like let's tear him apart, and why the guy was like, no, let's not do that? Did that make any sense to you?
Oh, well, he is operating on a sense of, in my head, a sense of honor where he doesn't act against them until they attack him. He
But Willy
only
has been sending robots
responds with
against you.
violence. And he only hurts them when they attack him.
God, this was fucking dumb. This is like when I was watching it, I'll be honest, when I was watching it in my head, I was like, he seems so obsessive compulsive about the cleaning aspect of his job, which is, I know that you can't tell by looking at someone that they have OCD. Like, don't give me letters, okay? But like, when watching him drive in, nothing, like when he's wearing his, like, isn't he wearing like a leather jacket and he's in his cool black car and he's got his sack of pop cans. Like, nothing about that says obsessive compulsive person.
Right.
Maybe the car was extra clean and I didn't register it. But then when he's in the actual restaurant and they're like, you have to clean it, he's like, all right, and okay. So then he's like cleaning everything. And I will say that, like, I did not believe Nicolas Cage as a lumberjack in Mandy. I did believe Nicolas Cage as a guy who can clean a toilet in this, which I appreciate. After all the stuff we watched with Gare, where like he folds laundry like with his toes, like he can't seem to handle human tasks. I did appreciate that Nick Cage, like when Nick Cage is scrubbing shit in the bathroom, I was like, okay, I can see like
you have scrubbed a thing. Yeah.
You seem like you've cleaned a thing before in your life, and I appreciate that. But like when he was a lumberjack, I was like, sir,
that was not
what the fuck
a
are you doing?
convincing portrayal of using a chainsaw.
I think the reason he cleans like that is because it's the reversal of what you're expecting. Like, if you're going into this with your usual tropes, he's just going to sit there and not actually clean anything or half-ass the cleaning.
I liked it as a if you're like throwing things at me to make a character, like making him obsessive compulsive and having to, and not just obsessive compulsive like in cleaning, but like every 12 minutes my alarm goes off and I need to chug an entire pop. I'm like, okay.
While playing pinball?
While playing pinball, yeah. I was like, okay, like I don't know. I feel like this movie is another one where I don't know that the tone that they set is the tone that they wanted to set. Like go give me a comedy, give me a scary movie, there are comedy horror movies, like that's a thing, but there's an art to getting the tone right. Otherwise it's just confusing for the viewer where you're like, you were giving me one tone and then you just jack flipped into another tone. Like it feels like not a good horror movie and not a good comedy movie when you don't get the mix correct. Like you failed at both things.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, like it's interesting that you gave me this character. He's super into cleaning. And then my only thought when he is stopping the girl from killing Willy, I was like, is it because it would make a mess? And he just seems like so anti-mess that it would be like one more mess. But then he like keeps like, they keep coming after him and he keeps killing them and then cleaning up the messes. So like the cleaning up after the killing was going to happen anyway. So then I was like, maybe it's not that, but it's just, I don't know. Like it feels like tropes that were on, or not tropes, like characteristics that were on their way to creating a character, but then did not satisfactorily gel for me in a way that made me go, okay, this is a character.
I don't know. I think we really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's like the horror movie mindset where I'm not looking for it to be, I'm just looking to be really entertained, and I felt really entertained.
Right. I wasn't looking for a deep narrative. But, okay, so with Mandy, we went in and Rachel just said, this is a Nick Cage horror movie that was like crowdfunded and like Elijah Wood produced it. And I thought, okay, I have zero expectations about what is going to happen in this movie. And then it was just like a visual character experience where, okay, there's the character's actions are all justified, but the things that he does are not explained as to why he can do them. How does he know how to do this?
Yeah, I mean, Mandy felt very much like a music video to me, and I liked. It felt like someone, like you had an art film director and you gave them a wad of cash and went, make a horror movie. And then you also gave them a bunch of LSD. And they're like, all right, here I go.
Absolutely.
But like, I liked, so again, it's sort of like the character in Willy's Wonderland, but for the visual effects in Mandy. Like, I see what you wanted to do. I like where you were going. The end result was not satisfying for me. Like and for my problem with the visual effects in Mandy, or not the effects, like the visual style, I guess, of Mandy, was like, there were scenes when it would look really beautiful, but there were an equal number of scenes where I could not see what was going on. So like,
yes, it was extremely dark.
Yes, there were extremely dark scenes, and then there were like I get why people put strobe light scenes in movies, but for me, like they put my teeth on edge. Like I get really frustrated with them. And then there were scenes where the color contrast, where it was like really sharp, bright neon colors next to like their exact opposites on the color wheel, like right next to them. So like visually, it physically hurt me to look at these colors next to each other. Like it was physically uncomfortable. And then yeah, like I said, there were scenes. The first time he kills a guy. I guess the guy is on top. The monster guy is on top of him, and I think he's killing him, and the blood like goes on Nick Cage's face the first time. Yeah. I couldn't tell what he had cut. I couldn't tell that he had cut anything. I just saw a bunch of blood like falling onto his face, and I was like, well, I guess the guy is dead. Just by context clues,
he had a
I
box
guess.
cutter in his hand.
Yeah, I couldn't see. I could not see any of that shit. And I found that really, I was like frustrated because I was like, okay, like you have these really beautiful, trippy, it feels like Lord of the Rings, but in the 80s and monsters. I was like, all right, sure. Like I'm here for it, but I can't see a fucking thing. Like you're showing me, you're like, look at the beautiful colors. I'm like, great. I can't see anything in these beautiful fucking colors. Like, and that's how I feel about the character in Willy's Wonderland, where I'm like, okay, like mute psychopath OCD Nick Cage, like hopped up on caffeine, like really into cleaning, saves an orphan kid who's like now his little buddy. I mean, that sounds compelling. Like that sounds like something that's interesting to watch. And then I watched it and I was like, fuck, I'm just annoyed. Like, and I want, if you tell me there's a scene where an entire movie where Nick Cage fights off robots, give me robots. Don't give me a girl with a mascot head on. Like that's really a bummer.
Yeah,
like the special effects were so shitty.
I think she's the only one.
But even yeah. So the one, and first off, why are they calling her a siren? Like a siren is like a mermaid, and she's walking around with little wings on. I mean, I guess she has a siren song. I guess she sings at one point, but like don't give me discount Tinkerbell when you say there's a siren. Give me like a fish monster, like, or call her something different.
Yeah,
call her like evil Tinkerbell. I don't care, but like whatever the public domain name version of that is. But like even the other ones, they weren't visually interesting to look at. Like the female, what is she, a chameleon? I think.
Yeah.
Where it was like a lizard with like a Dolly Parton wig on, but she was like a weird fleshy pink lizard, and it was just. You're just ugly. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the animatronics in Five Nights at Freddy's are also like ugly, but they're like they're characters. Like they're visually interesting to look at characters. And this, I was just like, you look like gum with a wig, and I hate it. Fucking. And then there's isn't there like a crocodile or a shark? What's the one that eats the couple that are
the crocodile?
Yeah. Like he's in it for 12 seconds. There's an ostrich, which sounds sort of like that could be an interesting puppet to fight. That's the first one that he kills, and he kills it like immediately.
I know, and
like,
I loved that. That was one of my favorite moments because it's we had the opening scene where that couple is getting chased through Willy's Wonderland. And then we get the blood, like, oh no, somebody got killed. And then we get to him getting trapped in the building. And then the first animatronic thing shows up, and he like walks right up to it and then is not scared when it starts talking because it says, I want to eat your face or whatever. And he rips its spine out through its mouth.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it was one of the better kills, I guess.
Oh, this is going to be a good movie.
Because it felt like it was kept trying to set up, okay, here's this unexpected thing, and kind of steering you towards, and here's how you probably expect it to like go down. In my experience, they were doing a good job of guiding you toward this expectation and then thwarting it. And it's like the ostrich comes up to him, and the expectation is, oh, he's just gonna check it out, ignore it, go back to cleaning, and then get attacked and then have to defend himself. But instead, surprise, he just fucking rips its neck out or spine.
Yeah. And
then, oh, okay. Here's, the first twist. Yeah. And then they did that a few more times where like, okay, this community has been doing this for decades. And the story that we're seeing is the one time they chose the wrong fucking guy.
Yeah.
And it's
Or I
the
would
most
argue the one time they
interesting
chose the right
story
guy.
Yeah,
of
the right guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like when you're saying inverting expectations, my only response to that is like my expectation was that this wasn't gonna suck. I just did not. I really did not enjoy this. I really,
And that's okay,
and
Meg.
like
We don't all
I
have
don't
to
even.
agree. I didn't like the plucky teens. They got on
Yeah,
my
I think
nerves.
you could have taken out the teen subplot.
You could have eliminated half the
Yes.
teens, and it would have been
Well,
fine.
I feel like you either give me a movie where it's about the teen girl who realizes that her mother is not actually her birth mother, which, like, pause real quick. How is this kid enrolled in school at all? Like, that was my first fucking thought. I was like, where's her paperwork? Did DCFS go and check out the house? Like, no, like, just fucking no. Like, they had to forge a whole bunch of
Well, I
shit.
think
Like,
that's
I know
why
that they're
she says
burying
she
bodies
feels like
behind
a
the Willys,
ghost.
but like, what?
I think that's why she said she feels like a ghost. Because she's effectively undocumented.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and that may be true. Not that her life is going to be easier now with her adoptive mute OCD father figure, but like if you had given me you had two options with this, right? You either give me the movie with the girl who is seeking vengeance for her parents, and then maybe like vengeance on all the other people that have been killed, and so that would have been interesting. But then you would have had to have it not be like drifters being killed necessarily. Like it would have been better for like people in the town, because then she would have even more, like the other kids would have more reason to join her, because they're all like, let's save the town from the monsters, and the adults don't care. Like that's a teen movie. Like we've seen that movie. Like you could give me that movie and she's the star and we care about her and her point of view.
Right.
Or you give me the lone freaky drifter from the 70s movie who gets caught up in like some small town bullshit and then manages to surprise the small town by like beating them at their own game. Like those are two movies.
He's secretly a badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are like they're like two separate bags of tropes, and they just went, what if we threw all these together in a fucking meat grinder and we shit on it and then we fed it to you through a fucking funnel? I wasn't angry about this when we started watching this. I'm getting angrier now. Because it's been a couple of days since I watched Willy's, because you said that Willy's, like, I watched Willy's and then you were like, oh, you should watch Mandy. And so I just finished watching Mandy like 12 seconds ago, and Mandy, I'm just like, it wasn't. You made me think it was going to be super gory. It was much less gory than Lex episode 1. I gagged during Lex episode 1. This there was one scene with like an eyeball, and normally eyeballs for me are the thing that make me like really sick. But this I thought so. At the end of the movie, so there's a scene where Nick Cage, he grabs the head of the Jeremiah, the head cult leader, and he squeezes like on both sides of the guy's head. And I thought he was going to just crush the guy's skull, because what can't he do? He's beaten the fucking Hellraiser demons. Why not?
Yeah.
But like he doesn't crush the guy's skull, but somehow like he squishes it enough that like one single eyeball goes and like pops out.
He does
kind of.
He does crack his skull.
Yeah, but
He
it's not.
just
I thought it was
doesn't
gonna be
flatten it.
like exploding it to nothingness, because why the fuck not? And he doesn't. There's just one eyeball comes out. But then when the guy's like body falls down, it kind of looks like he's wearing like black scleral lenses, and he just has like a little sad little eyeball on his cheek. And I was like, well, it just bums me out for you, actor. I mean, I hope you got paid better than like Gare does. But like, oh man. But I just like. That whole movie, I didn't enjoy that movie. I enjoyed it more visually than I guess Willy's. But like I will say that I did not like how at the end of Mandy it turns into sort of a sex scene, like an unconsensual sex scene. Did you get that feeling also? Am I just a pervert? Like he's got the bad guy down on his knees and the guy's like, I'll blow you. Is that what you want? I'll blow you. And then Nick Cage doesn't respond, because he like goes sort of not verbal halfway through, which is why I get why you're saying that this feels. Yeah. Which, first off, don't fucking stick your finger into a jar of gray shit you find at some cult member's.
He's got nothing
it's
to
gray
lose,
liquid
Meg.
slurry.
He's got nothing to lose. After he just snorted like a tablespoon of cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For after the demon was snorting it off a fucking knife. I don't know how he learned how to be a fucking blacksmith, because he was a lumberjack 2 seconds ago. I don't know why he left a bunch of weapons with his bald friend who lives in the woods. Like know. I just that's like, who is this character?
That's why they feel like the spiritual successor of each other, because they're like
I don't know
the
who
same
character is in either version.
They're like the same. They're the same character.
Yeah, we find out he's a badass.
Yeah, but the character is a whole. That's what I mean. You can have a character where you don't know things about them like purposefully, and it just feels like this is a character that like you don't need to know that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like this is a character that's just like bad things have happened. You don't need to know the bad things, just that bad things have happened, and that's what shaped him, and like that's why he's like the lone gunman, like Wild West character.
Yeah, the man with
But I
no
feel like
name.
for both of these, it's like if I did a video about Matt and I showed Matt like in his daily life, and then all of a sudden from under the bed he pulls out 6 Uzis and he starts speaking in Russian to someone on the phone, you'd be like, where did this come from? Like maybe that's the same guy. Do you know what I mean? Like if you'd given me like a little bit extra context, I'd be like, yes, Matt is an undercover Russian spy and he's just a sleeper agent, and then he gets the phone call that like wakes him up and he just hasn't had to use those skills in 8 months, and like now he does. Like give me
Yet.
You can give me nothing, but like you can't give me nothing and then throw something at my head. It's like I'm frustrated. But like then when Mandy, I wasn't angry before we started talking. I'm really angry now.
They were definitely
Mandy,
stretching this idea of not giving us the character's backstory.
Yeah, well, it's like playing with the man with no name, like from the Clint Eastwood
but it
trilogy.
plays with it badly. It does a bad job. Is what I'm saying. I'm mad about it. But like when the first movie ends, the bad guy is like begging for his life, and I was like, that sort of doesn't seem like in character, but we've only gotten like a half a scene with this guy before, so maybe it's in character. I don't know. You haven't shown me. Fine. He's like begging for his life. I will blow you. Nick Cage doesn't respond, and I'm like, okay, fine. Nick Cage doesn't respond and then kills him. The end. No, Nick Cage doesn't respond, but then like he's crushing his head between his hands, which I get is like a very personal way of like, you killed my girlfriend / wife, whatever. Like I want you to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
But like the physicality of what's happening is he's slowly crushing the guy's head between his hands while staring at him, and then both of them kind of have a sexual release. Like Nick Cage throws his head back, and then the dead and dying Jeremiah cult leader guy kind of flops his head back, and both of them are like moaning together sexually. And I was like, why? Fucking why? Like, what does this add? Do you know what I mean? Like this?
Yeah,
like,
I know
this
what
is
you
just...
mean, but I see it as like a relief of like everyone's dead now. Like his task is finished.
Okay, and when you're exerting yourself, like physically, like if I'm lifting something really, really heavy, like if I'm working through a really heavy set of some lift at the gym.
Wait, pause for 1 second. Rachel, I can't see Matt's face. I want to see Matt's face when he has this conversation with me. No, you move the camera over.
Oh, I thought
Push
I was
the
in
button,
frame.
Meg.
No, you're the whole screen. I can't make you any bigger, and all I'm getting is like one knee and one elbow from him. You've like thrown him way off screen. There. No. Tell me how when you lift heavy shit, you come in your pants. No, you tell me that. Come on.
I'm not saying it's
Sexual.
equivalent to sexual, but look up videos of Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about the pump.
Do it,
I'm going to be on a
Meg.
watch list.
But do it in incognito mode.
I'm already
Do it
in so many
incognito mode.
Like I get like release.
When you're like straining muscles and you're like exhausted, and then you let everything go, there is like a release of endorphins. It feels good to relax those muscles. And so if he's straining his muscles to crush this guy's head, and then the pressure releases, and now he's not tightening those muscles, there is going to be like a literal physical release where it feels good in his body to not be squeezing anymore. But then combined with the psychological release of, I have avenged my wife.
Yeah, but there's like, okay.
And then Nicolas Cage portraying that.
No. How dare you? How dare you make this argument to me? He's in ecstasy. It is framed so visual. So first off, like nothing, no, how dare you?
So first off, how dare you?
No, this movie pays no attention to like any kind of character development or physicality or like how human bodies work. So for it to decide that it's going to like give me an accurate visual representation of the release of muscle strain at the end of this movie, no, it doesn't. Oh wait, sorry, give me a sec. I have a visitor.
I mean, there was a knife dick.
There was a what?
A knife dick.
Did I miss the knife dick?
You must have missed the knife dick.
Was it one of the scenes that was filmed like in black on black in blackness?
It's the guy who gets his throat cut when he's watching porn on the TV.
I remember the guy getting his throat cut when he was watching porn.
Yeah, but so before that, Nick Cage walks into the building, and there's 2 naked dead bodies in one room with lots of blood on their back ends. And then you walk into the
Really?
room with,
Yeah.
I just
with
watched
the
this
guy
movie.
on the
I didn't see
sofa,
that scene at all.
and this guy is sitting on the sofa sniffing the cocaine. And when he
Mhm.
stands up, he
Yeah.
has about a 3-foot long
No, it's not that
blade,
long. It's about
2-foot
18
long
inches.
blade.
Like where his
Like-
genitals would
Yes,
be?
that's
Like,
what
as a
that's what he gets
strap-on.
stuck on when he like tries to fall on Nick
Yeah,
Cage.
he attacks
Yes.
Red,
His
and
knife.
his
See, I couldn't
knife
see
dick
any
gets
of that
stuck in the
scene.
floor.
I couldn't see anything. That's like, why would you give me a knife dick and then not let me see the knife dick? Like, I don't.
What
Could it
screen
be
were
your
you
TV?
watching this
That's-
on?
That's the one. What?
What screen were you watching it on? On your
my
computer? Or?
no, my crappy little TV
Oh,
screen.
that's
Oh.
why.
Little-
I bet if you watched it on your Apple
on like
screen.
a high. This movie does not deserve a high def, but I'm like also mad that like I couldn't watch it on a regular TV. But I saw that's the one that was the scene that I mentioned where I was like I could barely see anything. Like I saw blood coming onto Nick Cage's face, so I knew that Nick Cage had injured this thing on top of
Yeah.
him, but I didn't know how. I saw him getting stuck on the floor. Like that was visually clear to me that something on him was sticking into the floor and he wasn't able to move, and that's how Nick Cage got like the upper hand. But what was physically happening was just things I couldn't see.
Yeah.
Like if you give me an art house movie that is so fucking flowery and blurry that I can't tell what's going on, like I
didn't have any problem seeing what was happening in that scene, but
But we were watching it on a 4K HDR screen.
yeah, and I rented it. I
HDR
didn't
is
want to watch it with commercial breaks. 'Cause it feels
HDR
like it
is high
ruins the movie.
dynamic range, so you get that higher range of contrast of light and
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah, you
Well,
can't
maybe
watch
this
this.
is-
This is not a watch on your phone movie.
Or
it wasn't on my phone. It was on a TV.
That
It
was
on
a
real-
PSA for the public.
yeah.
This is not a watch. You could watch
This
Willy's
is not a
on
watch
your phone.
at all movie.
I want a Willy's
but-
Wonderland T-shirt really bad, but they don't sell them anymore. I looked it up already.
I'm sure you did. I understand the impulse.
I love
I
how
will-
he changes his shirt every single time.
Yeah, I mean that goes with the OCD-ness
Yeah.
of him. I was like, okay, like that's fair.
But I just keep coming back to the plucky teens are the worst part. Like when they show up and they're going to burn the place down. And then they're like, wait, we got to go save the guy. The girl is like, we got to go save the dude who's in there. And they're like, nah, fucking let him burn. And I was like, wait a minute, what?
Well, it's the trope that we see in every horror movie. It's the trope we saw in Trilogy of Terror too. Like, present me with characters that are so shitty that we can then fling them into fires and you won't care. Like,
Yeah.
make them already so crappy that you don't care if they live or die. And that's what they give us in this for everyone except for just the inexplicable black hole that is Nicolas Cage, mute janitor murderer.
Well, then they fall
I
through the
don't-
roof. And the guy that was like, no, we're leaving, and I'm going to leave everyone to die because I don't want to be here so much is like, hey, what if we fuck in the room where they did their satanic murder ritual?
Yeah. I will say I noticed that seemed like you had these barely sketched in characters and then you couldn't even keep that consistent for one goddamn
No, they
scene.
were
All of
the-
a sudden he's like, what if sex? And he just like changes personality wise.
And like the alligator is watching them and he's like, no, it's cool. Just let him watch. Like,
Which is confusing because like, the orphan girl was like explaining like, here's the whole, like we all know that all of these robots are full of the ghosts of killers. Like we're all aware of that. Like we're starting from there as our zero. So then he sees a robot and immediately becomes like the teen in every other horror movie who's like, it's just a robot. You're aware. You're here because you know that they're full of serial killer ghosts.
Right, you know
Right.
these
Why are
robots kill people, and that was why you would not go in the building.
I
But
wanna
That is
know.
exactly why you're here.
It doesn't matter.
I want to know why the whole rest of this building is all shitty. The roof is falling in. Everything is dirty. But those air ducts are gigantic and pristine.
That's your problem with the verisimilitude of this schlock horror movie.
There's like, it was 5 feet high and 3 may walk abreast. Like this was the biggest air duct I've ever seen in my life. And it was like perfect. Like it had just been
Yeah.
installed. And
But that's anytime that it is my new goal in life. Like, you know how you're always talking about the cement vault that
Yeah.
coffins go into.
Yes.
My new goal in life is to see the size of an actual regulation air duct because like every movie we see has, like you said, these giant air ducts that people can crawl in very easily, and they're strong enough that like it's the rare horror movie where somebody falls through, and usually they only fall through because
Mhm.
someone is like jabbing a knife up from the bottom
Yeah.
and breaking the integrity of the air duct. How big is an air duct actually? Do you have a lot of construction worker
They're-
listeners? Do
They're about like industrial air ducts, like going through rooms, might be 12 inches by 18 inches. That would be a pretty big air duct.
Is it like wait?
That's
12
like a
inches, that's
foot
like
by a foot and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So unless you have like
You might
dwarfism, you're probably not crawling through
you
the
might
air
have like
ducts.
the main trunk, like the main thing right off the air handler be 2 feet by 2 feet.
They can be up to 35 inches by 40 inches, which would be
Right.
3 feet by 3 feet.
But what I've seen in like warehouses, factory spaces, they're all smaller than 2 feet dimensions.
yeah, they're not this
So
And they're
big.
gonna be nasty
Why
as
did
shit.
this become such a trope for a thing that like does not exist in the real world? That's so
Because
weird.
it's
Die Hard.
Die Hard, yeah. It is a way, it's a path that exists that a
Yeah, you
character
can get from room
could
to room
sneak
without someone finding you, I
through the
guess, but
entire building.
Die Hard, Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, well, it worked for or it worked for Bruce Willis. It'll probably work for this tiny teenager. I love when they're getting ready to fight the chameleon and his watch goes off, so he just hands her back her knife and then goes on break.
See, that's one of those scenes where I was like,
That one, yeah, that felt a little weird because fighting the robots isn't his assignment. He's taking breaks from his assigned task.
Yeah.
He's not taking breaks from defending his life.
oh, were you thinking that that if he had not had to go into Willy's Wonderland, that his phone would not have had an alarm every like 12 minutes? Did you think that he was only doing that alarm because the guy was like,
he
take breaks?
set
Yeah,
that
because the guy told
after
him
the guy told him to take lots
frequent
of breaks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I kind of thought that he just that's how he lived his life. That's kind of how I thought. Like to
Some
me,
of the
like every like
time-
12 minutes, I need to drink a Coke. Like I thought that's just how he lived because he has a sack of them in his car. So
Yeah.
I just thought he
Right.
was. It's just one of those scenes where like played the right way, it could have made it a comedy, but
Mhm.
the rest of this doesn't. It's not strictly a comedy. So like
Yeah.
having these like weird these comedic scenes just plopped right in there, it makes it's just so tonally jarring. That I don't know. I didn't like this. I did not like this movie.
We
think,
did
sorry.
get
I think
a
Mandy.
Watchmen reference. Did you
Oh.
catch the Watchmen reference? Don't you
Which
get
one?
it? They're not locked in here
Oh,
with him.
yes.
He's
Oh,
locked.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's not
You're-
locked
yeah,
in there
you're
with
they're locked
them.
in with him.
they're locked in here with him. And I was like, oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that
one.
reminded me of a better property.
You
So
don't
in,
have to
in our
Congratulations.
Mandy in our Mandy episode, I talked about how horror and comedy have a very similar feel
Yeah,
up until
absolutely.
a point. And when you get to that point, horror, or I guess comedy, like resolves the contradiction or a inversion of expectations or whatever with a punchline. And horror doesn't give you that resolution. And Mandy kind of got close to that line, but it stayed on the horror side. And I think it kept that balance a lot better. But Willy's Wonderland almost kept crossing over into comedy, but then not like handling it as comedy. It was
Yeah.
trying to stay horror,
Yeah.
and it didn't
I didn't
ride
find
that
any
line as
comedy in the Mandy's thing. Did you think that there were
Um,
moments in Mandy's where it was like trying
there
to
are moments where it could have.
It is so over the top ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so
Like when
you're,
he's
you're in the
forging-
realm of the absurd.
like when he's forging his weapon and he's wearing aviator sunglasses. And it's like, yeah, here's my badass weapon that I made in this cave where we've never previously covered that I know how to smelt. Like I have smelting gear and blacksmithing gear.
Yes. Yeah.
Right,
But it doesn't yeah.
We're so out. We're in the realm of the absurd where it's unreasonable for us to expect that this is realistic. And when you're in the absurd, you can go comedy, or you can just leave it as, oh wow, this is completely unrealistic.
Yeah.
Where are we? And it like
I didn't think it had any. I didn't think it had enough self-awareness to like be thinking that big. Maybe that's terrible of me to say. I'm sure that a lot of people put a lot of effort into this, but I just it felt like, so I give Mandy more points than Willy's Wonderland because I think Mandy had like a broader vision that was like interesting and different, and like it had something it was striving for. I think it failed in getting where it wanted to get, but I appreciate it for trying. Like a lot of movies that we watch, it feels like they don't try. Willy's, if you took out the Nick Cage mute character, Willy's would be entirely a lazy piece of garbage movie for me.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with that.
The character, the mute caffeine fiend character is interesting, but I think he's interesting in a better movie. I think if he gets in his car and he drives into Mandy, okay, like, sure, whatever. But
to me, they feel like the same character in two different situations. Which is why
to me they feel the same, because they feel like they're both missing parts. They're both Frankenstein corpses without an animating soul in them. Like you've put a bunch of parts together on the table, and I appreciate that, and they're interesting parts, but it can't stand up. It only has one leg. It has half a brain. Like it's not going to move, Dr. Frankenstein. Like, you have to give me a little bit more before I can get the animating spark of life into it to make it interesting to me, the audience. And like, I'm not saying you have to spoon feed me. I feel like that's maybe what a lot of my complaints sound like for a lot of the movies we see, where I'm like, you haven't given me enough, and it sounds like I'm saying spoon feed me, but really I'm just saying, like, there are components to what makes a character, there are components to what makes a story, there are components to what makes things interesting to an audience and compelling to an audience and comprehensible to an audience. Otherwise, you would just have shapes and colors and screams, which is the way Mandy went, just shapes and colors and screams. But like, for me, like a MoMA exhibit of lights and sounds is not the same as a movie. There are things that make something a movie and make something a character. And you can have those characters that have like hidden parts of themselves. I don't have to know what they've done from birth until this moment. I don't have to know every single thing about them. You can shadow parts of them that like may never be revealed, and then I can sit and like ponder on later. But like, you have to give me something. It's sort of like E.E. Cummings poetry. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can break all the rules, but you have to know what the rules are to know that you're breaking them in a way that the end result is still something comprehensible. Like, his poem is not just like the letter E for like 45 pages. Like, that's not that's too many rules that you broke.
In Mandy, they gave us a lot of context about Red and Mandy. They have this life together, off in this cabin. They're fairly reclusive. They just kind of do odd jobs, but their focus is to have their own little space together where they live. And that gets interrupted.
Yeah, but it doesn't even, I feel like with that 70s pacing, like, it took so fucking long for the demons and the cult members to come out. So like, in that big long period of time, like, you could have given me like their lives together, and I feel like they had very few scenes where they're even together. Like, there's Mandy working at the thrift store, there's him coming back from the lumberjack job that he's doing. There's like one scene where they're like lying in front of the couch watching television, telling the most horrifying story I've ever heard about her father like murdering birds. Which,
well, they're in the bed talking about the book that she read about the galaxy. What's your favorite planet? And them talking about why that's their favorite planet. There's the scene in the lake where they're out in the boat
hanging
for
out
the afternoon, just chilling.
I guess, but it's sort of like, I don't know, like, I could watch you guys like going on a grocery run like 16 times, like, and replay it over and over and over again. But like, would that tell me who you are as people, really? Like, would it give me like your relationship? I mean, maybe if you're throwing cans at each other in the aisle.
I feel like going grocery shopping together would be a more accurate representation of a relationship than going on a trip or something.
We're panning over her artwork as she's working at her drawing table, and that's when he comes in from the lumberjack scene. And he's talking to her
artwork, which seems like a weird.
Well, that's
what they're panning over at the very beginning.
Before we get a view of her at the drawing table, we're panning over pages of hand-drawn things.
Did we watch the same movie?
Yes. It's under the opening credits. While the music is playing at the beginning.
And he's talking
Maybe
to
I
her
just-
about what's in her drawings.
She's like,
Maybe I
it's
just,
kind of like a
zoned
jungle
out.
temple.
Yeah, no, I remember her saying about the jungle temple.
Yeah. It's okay.
I don't know.
There's a lot happening in that movie. I actually don't
Yeah.
mind that we don't flesh out Nicolas Cage's character, and I think it's because it's Nicolas Cage. I think if you'd put a different actor in there,
Yes.
I'd have been mad. But I expect so much ridiculousness from Nicolas Cage that I was just like, okay, now this. And it's funny because I just watched National Treasure with the kids. And you cannot watch him in Mandy and Willy's Wonderland and then go back and watch him in National Treasure and not think that everything he's doing is
He's a less
like
mature
satire.
actor in National
Well,
Treasure.
I feel like I know he's made comments, I think, in the past that like he purposefully does things weirdly in movies. Like he purposefully is like not playing things like naturalistically, like even when he's in something where he should be playing it sort of naturalistically. I just well, maybe that's the other problem is like even in Willy's Wonderland when he's a silent character, like Nicolas Cage is always
Nick Cage.
slightly larger than like the world around him.
Yeah.
Like slightly exaggerated in like a weird way. So like maybe if you had some other person playing a mute maniac in Willy's, like they would have fit into the movie more. But this sort of felt like when you have a sticker book and you just plop the sticker like right on top, like it's not like you can see the line on the edge, like it's not quite
Like what if Dan
part of
Stevens
that
did
Dan
it?
world.
Stevens in The Stranger.
Oh,
Or
The Guest.
The Guest.
Yeah.
Have you seen that movie?
Mm-mm. No, I like Dan Stevens.
Okay, it's
He makes
it's
a lot
a
of interesting
similar
career choices.
similar setup. This guy shows up at this house and he says, "Oh, hey, your son who's like been in the army or whatever, me and your son were like buddies in the army, and like your son's not coming back, but I told him, like I promised him I would come see his mom or whatever." And so he
Oh, I
shows
don't
up
like
at this
this.
house and they're like, "Okay, you can stay for a couple days, whatever." And then we find out this kid, like the dead son's little brother, is in like middle school or whatever. And then there's Dan Stevens visiting army buddy, hanging out at the house. And he finds out, "Oh, you're getting bullied at school." Okay. So then Dan Stevens like follows the kid to school, finds the kids who are bullying his army buddy's little brother, and threatens to like gorily destroy them if they mess with this kid anymore.
Well, he just gets
But then-
increasingly unhinged, and then you find out he's not anything that he said he was, and you have no idea who he actually is.
But we have this like escalating violence where people show up to kill him, but he just
Yeah.
kills all of them handily,
Do we
like
know
no problem.
who these bad guys are, or why
No.
Nope.
how he knows who the kid is?
No.
Like who the dead kid is?
No.
We don't know. There's hints that he was in some kind of like military experiment and he escaped.
Maybe.
And
we don't ever
So the
resolve
little
it.
Tobo.
Or is he
Yeah,
just insane?
It's a little bit like
Who
the Little
knows?
Tobo, except it's
Mhm.
Dan Stevens and he's murdery. But it's very
So exactly like
I think
Lulu.
that's the first thing I ever saw Dan Stevens in.
well. I think it's kind of like what they were going for with Willy's Wonderland, but it's what you have to do if you don't get Nick Cage. If you get Nick Cage, it's like having a prepackaged character. It's like installing a program.
You get context.
So there's already
Yeah.
programming involved in it. You don't have to there's stuff you don't have to do because it's Nick Cage. And then if you got somebody else, you'd actually have to flesh out the movie. So you're going to see Nick Cage in Willy's Wonderland. And I'm okay with that because I like his ridiculous character, because watching him go slowly unhinged through his career has been very enjoyable for me. We went from Vampire's Kiss, where he's actually weird. It's a terrible
that
movie.
movie.
And
I
then
hate so many of his fucking movies, I think.
and then he'll be in a couple, he's in the National Treasure, which I always liked. And he's good in that. And he's in a movie called Next, which I really, really like. And it's about this guy who can see 2 minutes into the future, but no farther. And so it's a very interesting use of what could you do if you could only see 2 minutes into the future? And that one's pretty good. And then he'll go and do these movies where it's what if, I'm spitballing here, I didn't speak. I just face acted. for 2 hours. I just looked intensely at people or didn't look at them at all.
No, I'm here for Nick Cage playing a, I'm going to generously say neurodivergent character. No, I'm going to be entirely honest with you. So I don't play a lot of like computer games or video games because like I don't have the skills and I don't really have the time. So there's a channel on YouTube called Game Theory, and then they expanded it into film theory and I think food theory and style theory. But it was like for a while until very recently, it was this one guy named Matthew Patrick, and he's based in Raleigh actually. And he would do these videos, and he would talk about video games and movies and stuff coming out. So like I wouldn't watch like, you understand that the way that I consume content is different than how you consume content, because I don't see the thing. I read the Wikipedia article and I go, okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm done. Like I'm done now. So I learned the thing, like, 'cause I'm here for the story.
Right.
I'm here for the story. And if the story is good, then like maybe I'll go and watch it. But if the story seems dumb, then I'm like, I've saved myself from wasting 2 hours. So I used to watch these videos. They're like 20 minutes long mostly, so they're like good for like right before bed or like in the toilet. Like they're great, they're perfect. So he would do all these videos about Five Nights at Freddy's, and I was never going to play Five Nights at Freddy's because it seems like a very stressful game. It's you know about it. I assume Rachel has not played
I don't know that much about it. Our daughter has watched a lot of videos about it.
She really wants to play it.
I know the gist.
Oh my God, it seems scary. So okay, so for Rachel then, the gist is you're in all the games, you are a security guard. I think you're not always the same person, but you're always the security guard. You're in a security room with a bunch of monitors. There's a door on your left, a door on your right. The power is going out, and there are evil animatronic robots that are roaming around, and you basically have to check the monitors to see where they are, and then when they're coming up to your door, you have to like hit the button to close the door. And you only have so much power, like, to keep the doors closed. Basically, that's they're going to eat you if you don't keep the doors closed. I think
there's a bunch of games in the series.
Yes,
but
it's a very popular.
The more recent ones,
right?
The more recent ones, you have to navigate around the facility using the security.
Yeah, I think they've like
footage.
Expanded it, and then there's like a bunch of lore, which I'm here for the lore, obviously. And it the funniest part to me is that it seems like a game that was made like half-assedly by one guy.
Well,
named Scott
was.
Cawthon.
It was one guy, and he was a Christian computer game developer.
Yes, and then someone was like, "Oh, your thing seems scary,"
and he was
and
like,
then he's like, "Oh, you want scary? I can do scary."
Putting this Freddy character in the games that for the game studio he was working for, and they didn't. They were like, "That's kind of creepy." And then he's like, "Well,
I remember hearing that.
What if I made a game that was just these creepy characters that I keep adding to these games?"
So like he didn't really like. It sounds like it didn't start with like a big extended lore like plan, and then they were like, make another game. He's like, oh shit. So like now so anyway, so these game theory videos are mainly, there's like 400 videos of them going, okay, he added this new thing, so like let me try and figure out the lore. Well, this shit doesn't add up with that shit, and this doesn't add up with this, so like here's kind of what I think maybe happened, and then they'll make a new video game where like some new thing happens that crumbles their whole theory of the story. The stories they don't seem good. Like it seems like very poorly put together and just like a slapdash attempt to like keep making more money out of this. But so I would watch these videos and I was like, okay, like the concept of like evil robots with the souls of children in them, like that's dumb. But I can see how they would be like a very scary antagonist in a video game. Like I can see why you jump out of your pants when this robot comes at you and starts trying to bite you. Like that's very scary. And then they ended up doing a video of game theory where they tried to like recreate in real life. So he got like stuntmen to put on like the Five Nights at Freddy's robot suits and like come at him, and he had to like hit the buttons and stuff on time. Those looked better than what was in this movie, like separately. But like, I'm like, okay, like I can see like fighting robots. Like I'm with you. I'm here for this journey. I will be here with you on the like, you have to fight robots. Because there's something different about fighting a robot than fighting a person in a costume, or like fighting like a ninja, or fighting like a ghost or whatever. Like, even though I guess there's a ghost inside the robot, but like I feel like you're setting me up with like you're gonna have to put more effort into dismantling this thing, because you're not killing it. It's a robot. You're dismantling it. Like you have to do more.
Right.
So I'm like here for that. And instead this movie was like, it's guys in costumes, and it'll be very visually clear that it's guys in costumes, and then he'll like punch them in the nuts and they'll be like, oh my nuts, and fall down. Like how does that work? How does that work for like you've set me up with this concept. I was already on board. It's a dumb concept. I've watched like 58 hours of Matt talking about guys fighting robots. I was here for you, right? I'm way too old to be the audience for like watching you fight robots. I was here for this premise. I was on board. I had suspended my disbelief. And instead you're like, you half-ass it at that point. And then like when he's fighting them, it is so... It could have just been like guys in hats. Do you know what I mean? Like you could have just like green screened out the robots and been like, here's a guy with a funny hat. And it would have played out exactly the same. Like you're choking them. It's a robot. You're kicking them in the nuts. It's a fucking robot. Like I just like the one time that he killed it in a way that seems like the way you kill a robot by like pulling out the bird, pulling out its like throat, its whole entire neck. I was like, well, if it doesn't kill it, I mean, I get it couldn't lift its head up, so I guess that's something that sort of disables it. I'll buy that, sure. And then every other kill after that was just so lazy and sloppy. And then like the thing with his character being like beep beep, oh, I guess I gotta go drink my pop while everyone else is getting murdered, and like I can't kill the robot while it's standing there for fucking reasons. I was like, like
one thing I was waiting for was the twist where Nicolas Cage's character came to that town on purpose.
Oh yeah. I was hoping for something like that.
Coming to take care of these robots. And I thought surely he's like capable of killing these things. Okay.
And not even the least bit perturbed that they exist.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not surprised at these robots attacking him.
Yeah.
So he must have known about them beforehand. If he knew about them beforehand and he's just passing through town, maybe he came here on purpose with the goal of taking these things out.
Yeah.
But
or just
we don't
something
get any
to give
information
me
about that either.
Yeah, something to give me some kind of a context for his total lack of surprise at these things coming to life, his total lack of urgency at them coming to life, his total lack of like reaction to them like, because you can be the man with no name, but like if a robot like all of a sudden comes to life and is like, I'm gonna fuck you, like you I feel like you should have something on your face. Like something should happen to you
instead of just
visually.
Whoosh, punch him in the face. I get it.
Sorry guys, this is
Meg, why are you apologizing?
Is this punishment for like half the stuff I make you watch on GCGI?
It might
Is that what this is? Is this a punk?
This is a fraction of the punishment.
This is a punishment directly for Airwolf. Nothing else. Specifically Airwolf.
Hurt me too, okay?
Airwolf hurt everyone. For all time.
I was listening to our episode and like finding all of the sound errors because that's what I do to punish myself afterwards. And I was listening to it and I was like, did that happen? I don't remember that happening. Was that an episode? It's just gone. All I remember is Dick Van Dyke.
You dumped it.
It's a robot.
Well, thank you for coming on. I think it was important for you to be here because otherwise Matt and I would have just agreed. And this is good because now we had some conflict and we had a discussion. We had a dialogue. Which is what Nick didn't have any of in Willy's Wonderland.
But like that character, like I'm mad because like it showed me a glimmer of something better. Like
I get it.
When's the last time that we had like a silent cowboy character? I mean, I haven't seen that in a movie in like a long time.
I think we've been primed with all the Dark Tower books we've been reading.
Yeah.
Where we have Roland the Gunslinger, the one-man army.
I've still never read any Stephen King. It's on my list, I guess, eventually.
I didn't hate the Dark Tower by the Dark Tower 3 was good.
The audiobooks
I generally like
are good.
Stephen King. I think he's a good writer. I think he's a male writer, and sometimes it feels very male. But he's good.
I didn't like him as a writer for Entertainment Weekly, but like I will concede that that's a different context than like writing a full-length book. So like maybe he's an excellent book writer and just not a great columnist.
This is his like big
his magnum opus.
Yeah, his project that he does just because this is the story that he feels he needs to write, not the story that he's writing so that it can get made into a movie and he can make a ton of money because he needs a new kitchen.
Sure. Is the Black Tower series still, or Dark Tower, is it still going?
No, theoretically,
maybe
no.
But
then he tweeted like the Dark Tower still stands
recently.
Or something like Midworld was something about Midworld, and then the Dark Tower still stands, and everyone was like, "Steven, don't do that to us." And I was like, oh, maybe I need to read the series then. We're up to 3 and there's 8.
Oh, that's manageable.
Yeah,
if they
8's
don't
manageable.
suck.
So, yeah.
And one of them's a novella.
Yeah. So thank you, Meg, for coming on.
Sure.
We can just leave it here. So until
Sorry.
next time, friends.
Wait,
oh,
wait,
wait.
wait.
Oh,
Whoa.
Sorry.
Hey.
We have too many podcasts.
So remember,
I worship a shadow.
sometimes the strangest things are the most beautiful too.
So be who you are and love what you love. Until next time, friends.
Bye.
Bye. Or hate what you hate.
Bye.